It's Lisa from Been There, Got Out. And today's guest is not just one, but two people. And you're going to be in for a treat because we have very different accents, even though all of us are American. So today's guests are Lori and David from Nacho Kids, like nacho cheese. And we're going to be talking about how to deal with a difficult, let me invite them on, blended family. And one of you or both of you have a high conflict ex. And a lot of people in our community, oh, wait, there you go. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. Good. All right. Welcome, Lori and David. I was just about to say, you know, we've got the different accents. Like let me move my camera. I'm a New Yorker and you guys are down south. So our viewers will get to hear like different parts of America because we all sound very different, right?
I don't have an accent.
Yeah.
It's you.
All right. So before I even let you introduce yourselves, I'm just going to hit you with something that we've all dealt with. So all of us have come out of these difficult, toxic relationships and we're tired and we want to meet somebody else if we're able to trust again, which luckily all of us have. You two, the both of you, as well as my partner, Chris, who is on here and just said, hi, everyone. So we want to start dating again, but we still have all of this baggage and it's a lot to deal with. Are there things like traits that you look for in a new partner when you're coming out of something like this?
I know for myself, I was looking for someone that had kids because I wanted whoever that may be to understand that my child came first. If we had plans to go somewhere and something happened and my child was sick or his other parent couldn't get him, then our plans were going to be canceled. And I needed a parent to understand that. I felt like that somebody else wouldn't understand that.
Yep. Yeah. What about you, David?
No, she just needed to be sexy.
David, this is live.
All right. So the kids thing, I was the same. I was like, they have to understand that I have kids. And at the time, I didn't even know it was as toxic as it was. But I just thought, I want to have fun. I want to have someone who's fun, responsible. But any other things besides sexy and has kids? Sexy parent?
Well, actually, I had a list.
You did?
I did. My cousin had written a list of things that she wanted in a relationship. And so I said, oh, that's a good idea. So I made a list of what I wanted in a relationship and what I would not accept, period.
Okay.
The list is kind of funny. Actually, David's son was asking me about my list the other day. My list was I wanted a godly man. I wanted someone that didn't have DUIs.
You had the bar really
high
low.
bar.
And I didn't go into like height or eye color or anything like this. This was just your basics. And I wanted someone that wanted to better themselves, that wasn't stagnant in life. And someone that I felt like would be a good role model, not a dad, but a good role model to my son.
Yeah. I think for me, I was looking for somebody who, I had to put it in one sentence, somebody who didn't need me. Like they already had their crap together and they weren't looking for somebody to take care of them or save them or something like that. That was kind of one of the things for me.
I remember the first time I talked to you on the phone, I think, I was changing the thermistor on my hot water heater. And he's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't need anybody. And that was hard, too, going into a relationship, being a single mom, and then adding the responsibility of having to deal with somebody else.
Yeah. David, what you said made me think of, I also came up with a list. I had never done online dating before. And my partner and Chris and I met on Match.com like over 9 years ago now. And I remember having a lot of fun writing the profile and thinking about what I was looking for. But I also had written something like, I want someone who has at least 2 things that they are passionate about that has nothing to do with me, because I didn't want to be responsible for that other person's happiness, because I'd been blamed for my ex's unhappiness. And I thought, I need someone who's like a whole human being, and I'm not part of, again, like you said, saving them or totally taking care of them, especially with kids and a difficult ex. So with that, now can the two of you introduce yourselves formally and say what it is you guys do and all of that?
Okay. Well, I am Lori Sims.
I'm David
Sims.
Yeah.
And golly, what, 13 years ago now, we created what is now known as the Nacho Kids Nacho Parenting Method. And let's see what else. David has 4 sons. I have 1 son. Of his 4, there's a set of triplets. So I went from a single mom to one sweet little baby boy in a clean house to living in a zoo. And it did not work very well for me. We had read all the books about how to blend, you know, you're like a nuclear family. Bull crap. That did not work for us. In fact, it drove us towards a divorce. And by sheer, what's the word I'm looking for, David? Persistence, and that we were not going to give up, I started backing up, and we created what is the Nacho Kids Method.
Wow. I was going to say, speaking of all the books and things that you read, what are some myths that you thought would happen about step parenting or blended families?
I think one of the things was, and we try to do this, was I really felt like for me that I was like plucking, you know, my kid's mom out because she's their mom and my wife. I'm plucking her out and I'm putting Lori in. And she was going to be the new mom and the new wife. Now, I wasn't really expecting her to do mom duties, but I really kind of, you know, really wanted to have nothing to do with the ex going out, and everything was just to focus on Lori coming in. And so I think a lot of people make that same mistake where they put too much pressure on the incoming new person to fill a role that often is not available. And the mom role was never available. And so anytime she tried to fill that role, whether it's because I was asking her to do it or whether she thought it needed to be done, that's where we started having a lot of issues up front initially.
Well, and a lot of the books that we read, well, I read the books and told David what they said, but we also met with a counselor and took these questionnaires and all this stuff. So we felt prepared, right? But the books were just treat them like your own. You are the other parent in the home. Just love them. Discipline them like you would your own. These kids had 2 parents. They didn't need another one. And they were not receptive to me simply even telling them to brush their teeth. They were like, what? You're not our mom, or who are you to tell us to brush our teeth? You know, keep in mind, though, in the beginning, they were all excited.
Oh, really?
About us getting married. Yes. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
How old were the kids at the time
When
that you guys got together?
we got married in 2009, so Avery had just turned 11, and the triplets had just turned 9, and Jackson had just turned 4. Is that right? Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because there's 5 years between Jackson and the triplets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, so the kids were excited. That's awesome. I would think like when Chris and I got together, we did not plan to get married, and we still are not married, and we still don't live together. But I felt like part of the reason that we did that was because we didn't want the kids to have to suddenly deal with all of that, considering that our exes as well. And that leads me to ask you, like, if there's a high conflict ex involved, it's a totally different scenario than just a blended family. Like, what was the impact that had on each of you, and but especially on your kids? Because you know, we talk a lot about how one parent tries to turn the kids against the other parent, and especially that other parent's new partner. Did you experiencing anything like that? I know I just threw like 4 questions at you.
No, you're fine. I think that my ex was the most high conflict out of the 2.
They were conflicted differently.
Yeah.
So, for example, her ex would constantly take her to court. So his conflict was legal conflict. Mine was conflict, which was more verbal and emotional conflict.
Yeah. And so from my standpoint, like my ex would tell my son, what happens here stays here, you know, kind of like Vegas. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas.
Right.
But that caused my son to have conflicts, even if I didn't ask him anything, because if he felt it was something he should tell me, he felt like he was keeping something from me. And we've always been very open. And I've told him, don't lie to your daddy. Don't lie to him. But yet on the other side, he's being told, well, if your mom asked, then tell her this. So he's being torn morally on what do I do. And I remember one time we were going to the beach and we were talking about motorcycles and stuff, and something about Jackson's dad having a motorcycle. And I asked Jackson, I said, has your dad ever rode you on your motorcycle? And he just started crying because it put him in a situation of doing what his dad told him not to do and lying to me. And so that was horrible. That's horrible. Don't do that to your kids. Don't do that to your kids.
Yeah.
Also the coming home and yeah, my dad said the court papers on page such and such, section whatever, says blah, blah, blah. Don't bring your kids into that. Now, I will say my son knew about court orders and judges and the court system at a very young age because his dad and I weren't together. And when he was 2, he'd say, I don't want to go. And I'm like, you have to. A judge says you have to. And he's like, well, I need to talk to that judge. And I'm like, it's not that simple. You need to spend time with your dad.
Yeah.
So, we dealt with that, the court stuff, back and forth. It was crazy. Thankfully, David didn't go through that. But like he said, his was more of getting the emails, your kids hate you, you're, turning them against you, blah, blah, blah. I don't know that my ex ever said anything negative about David.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're lucky.
Yeah. Jackson never told me anything that was said about David.
Yeah, he hated her enough for both of us.
Yeah.
David, what about with the type of stuff that your ex did in terms of your kids? Do you feel like your kids felt torn between having affection for Lori, like it was almost a betrayal of their mother, or was that not part of it?
No, it absolutely was. I recall once where we were on the phone with one of my kids, and they happened to be in the same car with their mom and their grandmother. And the kid was getting ready to get off the phone, and he said something like, I love you too, Lori. And you could hear the grandmother in the background saying, you don't tell her that. It's like, so I can't imagine, what they probably had to go through on a consistent basis, really, about you can't like her, you can't love her, you can't whatever. And we could always tell when that type of conversation would happen, because when they came back home, you could see they would have to purposely distance themselves from her. And then, by the end of the week, they would start kind of slowly coming back, and then they would go to their moms and they would distance themselves again. And it was just a yo-yo effect that, was really uncalled for. But, one of the other things I think that we did, or I know that we did, that we coach a lot of folks on, which is how to respond to the emails that the ex sends you. We would get an email on a Friday afternoon from one of the exes, and the entire weekend was shot.
We call that the Friday night bomb. It's often with filing court stuff, but that they do it specifically before a weekend or a holiday or a birthday or a vacation, right?
Yeah. So we would spend the entire weekend stewing over it and trying to format the perfect email response, and outlining every single defense to everything they put in the email. And eventually we got to the point where our responses to the email was just simply, okay, and that was it. But it took us a long time to get there. And we wasted so much time trying to respond to things that make no difference. Like, you're not changing these people's mind about you. And no matter how much you're defending yourself, it doesn't matter. And so that was one of the mistakes I believe we made. Instead of focusing on each other and our family, we spent a lot of time focusing on the people that hated us most.
Oh my God, I'm so glad you noted that, because we have a lot of clients and people in our community who are doing exactly that. And when we meet them, they're like, I'm dealing with this terrorist campaign. My partner's in the middle of it. Our lives are being ruined because we're spending hours trying to figure out how to deal with this person. And it's awful, and I don't know how to handle it. And our relationship is suffering because of it.
Yeah, and it's continuous. So it starts when their name pops up in that email.
Yeah.
And then you read it, you get angry, all those feelings. You feel like you have to defend yourself. And like David said, you spend the whole weekend, but then even after you send it, it's not over.
Right.
Because you're waiting for that reply.
Right. And
But
They're,
when we were,
they want that, they want that engagement. That's the point.
yes,
if I get an email today from somebody else that has the same spelling as my wife's name, I feel
your ex-wife's name.
ex-wife's name. I I feel like this rush of blood to my head,
Yeah.
like I'm getting to get mad. I mean, even though I know it's not her,
Yep.
it's
Same thing when I hear, yeah.
yeah, it's trauma.
I know. I mean that happens now. I mean, you know that we work on the world of legal abuse and court stuff, and Laura, you've certainly been there. Just seeing a message from a lawyer or anything from the court, I get like, so.
And I remember, it still breaks my heart. I remember having the best day at work, picked my son up, we were going home. I had planned for us to play with bubbles or whatever. And I pull up and get the mail, and guess what? There's a bill and a letter from the attorney.
Mm-hmm.
And it ruined me. It ruined my day. And I hate that I allowed that to happen. And I did allow that to happen because I didn't know how not to let that happen.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're thinking about the finances part. You're a single mom. And you're thinking about just the stress of court and all that. But I remember being so mad at myself that evening that I didn't get to do what I wanted to with my son because I got so upset about the court papers.
Totally feel you. So back to what David was saying about the kids, like feeling in the middle of this loyalty conflict to their biological mom. And Lori, how did you deal with that when the kids would come and they'd be really distant with you? And just like, what was that like?
Well, I understood it. I knew that the loyalty bonds were strong. And I also knew what had happened with, their mom or their grandma saying, no, you can't love Lori or not like Lori, whatever. She's not your mom and all that stuff. You don't have to listen to her. But so I knew that's where it was coming from. And I knew also that it didn't matter that it was me because it was not about me.
Right.
It could have been, Princess Consuela Banana Hammock or whatever. And and they were still going to get the same issues, right? Because as a mom, you don't want somebody, I could see her side too. Like I didn't think that it was appropriate for me to try to get these kids to love me more than their mom or anything like that. And as a mom myself, I know I didn't want my son calling anybody else mom. So like that was never an issue. I never wanted them to call me mom. They have always called me Lori. And I tried to give them that grace to have that space. But it was really sad because come Friday, we'd be great. And then the next time they'd come back, it was like starting over every time.
Yeah.
Not with just chores and homework and stuff like that, but just
relationship
wise.
Yeah. Yeah. I was going to say, since both of you have been in this position, can you talk about, because I'm thinking a lot of our clients too, we often will get someone who is the new partner and their current partner is dealing with a high conflict ex, and they feel such a sense of helplessness where they feel like, I'm looking at my new partner suffering. Like, what do I do? Because I can't do anything. I'm not the biological parent. I don't have control over it. Especially I find, we're pretty gender neutral, but usually when it's a blended family and someone comes to us, it's the stepmother. The stepmother's like, my husband is really suffering and the kids are suffering and I don't know what to do. Do you have any advice for people like that?
I'll go first and then you can go.
Sure.
But to me, it's just a matter of being supportive. It's as simple as I can't control what's happening. I can't fix what was broken. I didn't break it, but I can be supportive. And so when my husband is in a bad mood, I don't necessarily have to jump to, oh, what did I do? What's he mad about now? It's, okay, wait a minute. He just got an email from the ex, or she just got served papers from the ex, whatever. Because you have to realize that this is completely out of your control. And the only control you have is how you let it affect you. And you can still be supportive of your partner. Don't bash the ex with them if they start on a bashing rampage, but just be supportive. Say, I know how frustrating that must be. I know how hard this must be on you and the kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
David, what about, because Lori experienced what our clients do all the time, legal abuse, where it's not just the ex, it's the court. How did you deal with her suffering through this all the time, and the trauma of always getting more motions or having to go back to court and take off work and spend the money? Like, how did you support her through that?
So obviously the money part usually, floats to the top. And so she and I always had conversations about money and, where's the money going to come from to pay for this? And it was never one of those things where I used against her. Like, you're not using our money to pay for that crap or whatever. It was like a necessary evil.
Yeah.
Like, okay, there's an added expense. Okay, we won't go on vacation this year, whatever. But we've got to go through this, and we've got to take it to court, and we've got to do all these things. And it's just, and you just have to deal with it.
Right.
It's like
a
I
team.
don't want it.
It's a team.
Right.
It's not like my partner has this.
Yeah, it's not like she did something that caused this to happen, or she was neglectful or anything like that. It's just, okay, it's yet another time where we're going to have to spend money on these court fees and all this kind of stuff and attorney's fees. So, okay, it is what it is, and let's roll.
Which helped me a lot. I didn't have the knowledge to represent myself, and I feel like even if I did, I was too emotionally attached. This is my kid. So if, God forbid, if I'd have went to court and represented myself because we didn't want to spend the money or didn't have the money, then if something would have happened and his dad would have got 50-50, I would have felt horrible. Like I failed my kid. So it was really nice to have that support from David. He never gave me a hard time when the bills came in from the attorney or anything like that. He would just say, are we doing all right? Yeah, we're doing good.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a lot of weight. So what about, we talked a little bit on what qualities you look for in a new partner. Are there ways, let's say you find somebody and this has been a while for you guys, but you find someone, do you think there's ways to prepare that new partner for what's to come? Because a lot of times the new partner is like, I didn't think that I was signing up for this.
We always joke that we tried to run each other off as much as we could.
Yeah. In the beginning. I think, honestly, I would say they need to join the Nacho Kids Academy, because that way it helps them understand, look, we're not saying you're not important in these children's lives. We're just saying that you're not the parent. You can be the best friend, the confidant, the best cheerleader, a mentor to these kids. You can even have a better relationship with them than their bio parents do. But you're not the parent, and the parenting needs to be left up to the bio parent. And David has been really good with that. He does not interject with my son. There was maybe 2 times, I think, my son was driving me crazy and my head was starting to spin. And David's like, you need to stop. That's enough. And he would listen to him. He wouldn't keep going.
Really?
But other than that, he doesn't step in. And we actually had a code word. If I needed him to step in, if he wasn't kind of paying attention, I would just say the code word. And that way he knew I needed his help, but it wasn't to parent. It was to help stop the chaos at the moment.
Yeah. I was more of the pattern interrupt.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was pattern interrupt, I guess, for you too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
great. That, there was one time one of his kids said something disrespectful to me, and not like F you or anything like that. It was just disrespectful from our viewpoint. And so David was very upset, and I joke about how I saved that kid's life. I'll say, you remember I saved your life that day? He's like, yeah.
That's great. Yeah. What about, go ahead. Are you going to say something else?
I was going to say, I think it's important to explain before you blend what your expectations are of each other. And I think a lot of times that includes, let's have the conversation of money. Who's going to pay car insurance? And what if that kid has a wreck and the insurance goes up? Are they going to pay it? Or are you going to make them responsible to pay that?
Oh, so
is that going to come out of more money, which affects my retirement? There's all these questions that need to be asked and addressed before you blend. And any changes that you make, like with my son, I was trying to get him to quit drinking out of his little sippy cup. Well, we needed to do that before David and I got married, because Jackson would relate having to get rid of the sippy cup to David. So you have to make these changes so they don't look at it as, great, it's the step parent's fault.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, so important. Wow. What about so one of the things we unfortunately see in our community is people repeating the same toxic cycle with relationships where they feel like I've gotten out of this, I'm ready, I have my narc radar, and they end up in a similar relationship. Are there red flags that you notice in your community of like, oh, I'm doing it again, I should probably keep an eye out for this?
I tell you, when I had my list, and when I would go out with somebody, if they hit the bad list, the red flag
Uh-huh.
list, there was no question, gone. Hasta
Yeah.
la pasta. Don't call me. I'm done. And I know that sounds crazy, but for instance, one night I remember I was talking to this one guy, and I told him, "Don't call me between 8 and 9. That's when I'm getting Jackson ready for bed and all that stuff." Dude called me at 8:15. I answered the phone. I'm like, what? And I know that's rude, but I still what? I acted like my sister.
You had your rules though. You said it.
And
So
he said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I think I've explained to you before not to call me between 8 and 9 because that's time I'm getting my son ready for bed. So don't bother calling me again." And I hung up.
yeah.
There was no leeway.
Yeah.
And that's what you have to realize. When you see those red flags, they're not pink, they're red. And I think that we as people are attracted to certain types of people.
Mm-hmm.
So it's easy to repeat those bad relationships, but you have to, for your own mental health and safety and everything, you have to pay attention and don't get blinded by the love.
Yep. Yeah. David, any comments on almost before Lori?
Almost before Lori.
Oh, you don't want me to talk about that. I got some stories, girl.
Yeah. No, I mean, I agree with her. It was looking for the things that you wanted in somebody, and then really paying attention when you saw the things you didn't want. Because
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the failures that we often have internally is we'll say, okay, but it's not that bad because this other thing over here is so much better. And
Right.
then, what you realize later on down the road, though, is like the thing that you really loved about them seems to diminish, and the thing you didn't really like about them seems to just get, crazy out of control. And so I would say that, yeah, if you have those few things that they do, and you're like, yeah, but everything else is so great.
Nope.
Yeah, and we hear that oftentimes where somebody will say, I can't stand this about him and this about him, but everything else is perfect. I'm like, yeah, but you're not focusing on the things that are perfect. You're only focusing on the two things that are driving you nuts.
Mm-hmm.
And they're, if they happen to be things that are deal breakers, like you should have taken your own advice and said those were deal breakers instead of putting them on the back burner and saying, they're not that bad. Maybe I can deal with it, because they'll
Right.
come back and bite you.
Yeah.
I know a lot of times I think the things we love about people, we end up hating about them. And when I say that, like, I could say, I'm going to make this up because David's not really that compassionate, but just say that David's this kind, compassionate soul, and he just treats everybody, what can I do for you? And that's great. I think that's a great thing for him to be. But then when he's nice to his ex, it's like, no.
No. Yeah.
So you
Right.
end up hating
Great
those things.
example.
Yeah.
He's nice to every waitress.
Yeah, great example. All right, so back to the terrorist stuff with the ex. So Laura, you had said like you guys, both of you said like you learned how to deal with it. Are there ways that you can think about how, that in between of like getting it wrong and then dealing with it better? Like any tips you can give people on how do I deal with the terrorist ex who's still not, it's not just the court stuff, but they're invading our daily life.
You have to set boundaries. And if that boundary is you only communicate with me through the My Family Wizard or whatever the parenting app is, then that's what it is. That way you don't have to worry about them popping up on your phone with a text or an email. When you go to check My Family Wizard that there is potentially going to be a message there from that person.
Mm-hmm.
So that way it eliminates them from being so much in your life. You have control of when you view that message. Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course. So let's say you view the message and they are threatening all kinds of things and you're like, oh my gosh, how am I going to deal with these feelings I have. I mean, Laura, you lived through the legal abuse for years. How did it get better for both of you when you were putting up with this?
Well, I know for me, I had to start asking myself the questions. Is this true?
Mm-hmm.
Is what he is saying is true about me? No, it's not. Is my response going to be something that would be beneficial if this went to court? No, not my response right now. So I need to wait a little while. I need to calm down. But also, I would tell myself, you are focusing on the past. You are focusing on this that is affecting your relationship with not only David, but my friends, my son, because it took time away from me and it ruins your mood. So I learned, and it does take time, when you see that email, that you don't ignore the feelings. You never ignore your feelings, but you give them that 5 minutes. Set a timer on your phone. Be mad. And after 2 minutes, you're like, okay, I'm good. No, you got 5 minutes. You got 3 more minutes. You sit there and be angry and you get it out. I don't care if you have to scream, whatever. And then after that 5 minutes, it's done. It's done. You refuse to let that have any more emotional bearing on you.
Yeah.
And it gets easier with time.
Time and practice. Yep. What about you, David? Any other?
I mean, I'm just going to, because you hit all the points, but if you do have the ability to choose how you respond to something, you don't have the ability to choose how somebody decides to take you to court and all those types of things. So when you get that email, then you have the option to sit there and say, how am I going to let this affect me? You almost have like a flow chart. Like, am I going to let it make me mad? Yes. Okay, go here. No, go here.
Right.
But you do have that ability. And so oftentimes we would schedule what we were going to do. Like, for example, if it was a Friday bomb, as you called it, then sometimes we would say we're not even going to read it until Sunday night. Or if we did read it, we're not going to respond until Sunday night. And we're not going to even think about it anymore.
No, granted, I will just say that we knew our kids were fine. It wasn't we got an email, something could be wrong with our kid.
Right.
It was, this is more crap coming at us.
Right.
Steal our joy, and we're not going to let that happen.
Right. Yeah. And so we would put some rules and boundaries around, when we're going to focus on it, when are we going to talk about it. Like if we went to dinner that night, that's not going to be a topic of conversation at all. Okay. We're not going to discuss it, period. And then we would say, okay, Sunday from 7 to 9 p.m., that's the time that we'll focus on that. We'll schedule that time in. Other than that, we're not dealing with it. And so we had to be very intentional about when we would allow them to interfere with our lives, because that's what it was.
Yeah. And two, I want to say, I know in the beginning, David would share everything with me, his accent. And of course, I'd be like, you know.
I know.
You're like, you need to light into her. Why are you being so passive about this?
Yeah.
And again, I realized that he knew her better than I did. And he knew trying to address the issues would go nowhere.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because when you mentioned earlier about supporting your spouse, some people think that's support. Like, I'm supporting you by telling you that she's a piece of crap and you need to light into her and you need to do this. And, that's not really.
And let me reply to her.
Yeah, let me do it. That's not really the support for me that was helpful. The support for me that was helpful was, I understand this is tough for you. I'm sure you'll make the right decisions, and I'm here. I got your back. How can I help you? Whatever that was. It wasn't her getting mad with me. It was her calming me down that was helpful.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Yeah, because we are dealing with such tense situations. Like, why add fuel to the fire?
Right. Yes.
Yeah, because I know we know how stress like physically affects us from this too.
Oh, well, girl, I don't know if you remember or if we talked about it when we had you as a guest on our podcast, but the stress from all this stuff with the stepkids when we were at our worst and all that, they thought I had pancreatic cancer because I had lost so much weight. I was sick. I mean, I was weak. I couldn't even take a shower without having to rest afterwards. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
And it was stress.
Wow.
It was stress.
Wow. How long did that last?
Probably about a year.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And that, of course, once I started nachoing, it helped. tremendously. But
Yeah.
it was rough. It was really rough because I didn't know what was wrong with me. I just knew that I had all this stress at home and it just seemed to follow me everywhere. And I was sick all the time. I couldn't eat. I couldn't drink anything. It was horrible. And I remember talking to my doctor and he said, your stomach acids can eat your esophagus. Well, guess what? That's what was happening to me. That's why my stomach hurt so bad.
Wow.
Because of stress. It was stress.
Yeah.
Stress will kill you. I got down to less than 100 pounds. Look at these cheeks. They weigh 100 pounds.
Oh, wow. Well, I'm so glad that you got better and your cheeks are back.
Yeah.
So, can you guys tell people how they can find you? Because it's so wonderful to know that both of you have been through what we've been through and what a lot of our community has been through, and you're smiling, you're in a healthy, loving relationship, you're making it through, and you've turned your mess into your message.
Yes.
So how can people find your message?
Well, we have the Nacho Kids podcast, which you have been on.
Yeah.
We have the Nacho Kids website with some blogs.
NachoKids.com.
Mm-hmm. We have the Nacho Kids Club, which is outside of Facebook. It's a community. It's not as active as Facebook, so let me warn you there. We have the Nacho Kids Academy, where we walk you through how to nacho properly and learn these tools to not let these things bother you like they should, like they are, not like they should, but like they are, as well as to help you learn to re-engage when you're ready. Because that's the whole goal. The whole goal is to lower the stress in your blend and to rebuild those relationships. And with us, things had gotten so bad, I needed a full year, and the kids needed a full year for us to start wanting to be around each other more.
Yeah. I remember one of my kids used to call the day before he would come back from his mom. He would call me and say, "Is Lori still there?" I mean, he just knew that at any time we were done.
Well, that's what their goal was.
Yeah. They wanted her gone.
Yeah.
And we were struggling. I mean, we were struggling bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of times people will say, "You got to love your stepkids." How can you love somebody that's trying to destroy your life? Because that's what it was. And not that I wanted them to get hurt or didn't care about them, but there's a difference in loving somebody and tolerating them. And that's kind of where we were. Yeah. I often say that they hated me and the feeling was mutual. And I know that's horrible to say, but it's true.
Well,
that's why when somebody, I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, like, it makes sense. I mean, how can you not feel resentful at someone who's trying to destroy your relationship and you as a person when that it's not you personally, it would be anybody who's in your place.
Yes.
It seems so unfair.
Yeah. And of course, David doesn't like the victim mentality. So that was the whole issue. But I'm like, well, how am I not the victim? Everybody hates me here. I moved into your house. Your sister lives next door. She hates me. Your mom lives next door to her. They hate me. Your ex hates me. The kids hate me. Like,
where's the common denominator?
Yeah, where's the common denominator?
I know. And you thought this was going to be fun.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, I have to say that anybody, if you're struggling in your blend, it can be better. It takes work, but it is so much worth it because I wish we would have taken pictures. I know we've got pictures of when I was so sick, but pictures of us, of how we were back then, because we can't tell you how bad we were. It was horrible.
Yeah.
It was horrible. And really the only thing that kept me from leaving was I didn't want to uproot my son again. That was it.
I was waiting every day to come home with the divorce papers.
Yeah.
I didn't want to file for divorce, but I expected her to, and I was just waiting on it to happen.
And how long have you been together now?
15 years this year.
Yeah.
Wow. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I love that you're also part of the Been There, Got Out Club.
Yes. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on. And just repeat again how people can best find you, like quickest way to get to you.
NachoKids.com.
Okay. Perfect. All right. Loved catching up with you guys again, and we'll do this some other time, I'm sure.
All right. Take
care.
Thanks.
Bye.